Just a little bit more on text, and we will look at this a little further in depth a little later in the semester. But just a few things. We looked at a video on putting type on text and also using the area type tool. And I would like to add to that. First of all, if you go ahead and click in here, as you know, you can put text in there, but I just went ahead and added additional text. And what I'd like you to notice is that I've suddenly got this little box down here. So what that's telling me is that I have more text that is not visible to the eye right now. So there's several different ways you can approach this. One of the simplest ways is to simply select all of the text in there and make that text smaller. You can see that that box goes away. Sometimes that's not the best option for what you've got going on. Another thing you can do is you can go ahead and click and shift and make the shape that it's placed in larger. So that's another option that you have. Now what happens if I click on this is you'll see I get this little box, this kind of icon down there, and what it's telling me is that I've loaded additional text onto the mouse, and then when I click, I get the additional text placed in there. And what this is doing is it's telling me that this is connected to that. If you were doing multiple layers of text boxes with Illustrator, this would become a pretty handy little tool. And you'll notice that, for example, if I start eliminating things in here, it also affects this new box. So if I don't want that, I can simply come in here and I can delete it. Okay, but then I get back to having the little icon telling me that I have additional text. We will look at that a little bit deeper in a later video. A couple other things I would like to cover with you about working with the text tool. One is when you are done with a piece, before you say, I'm completed, what you need to do is do spell check. Now, I have to say spell check is a little bit clunky in Illustrator, but at least it's there. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Edit, Check Spelling, and click Start. And now it's going all into this right here. So I think what I'm going to do, actually, instead of doing that, is I'm going to go ahead and select this one right here, because this is really the one I really wanted to look at. So I'm going to go ahead and say check spelling, start. Oh, it still wants to get that other one. Okay, well, obviously, I'm going to get rid of that. This as well. Okay, now, third time's a charm. So what it does is it gives me some suggestions on what that word might be while I was going for the word spell. So I'm going to go ahead and select spell, and I'm going to say change. If I had that misspelled throughout a large document, I would say change all. If you have a unique word, you would select, with it selected like this, you would say add, and that would add it to your dictionary. But this is the word really, and I don't have that as an option in here. So what what I would do is I would select ignore, and then I'm done with spell check. Then I have to come back in here and correct this. So some people have suggested that it's best, especially if you're using a lot of text, to actually copy and paste it into something like Microsoft Word, run spell check in there, and then repaste it into Illustrator. That's a little bit of an extra step, but if you're working with a lot of text, that might be your better bet if you're working with Illustrator, just because the Illustrator spell check is just not the best in the world. It's not the worst, but it's not the best. So there's that. There's one last thing I wanted to show you guys, which is, again, I'm going to just make these into 2 paragraphs or 2 lines, is the ability to change what they call leading. Leading is the spaces between the lines. So the lines of text. So I go up to Windows and I'm going to select type. And you can see that there's actually several different options for type. And I'm going to go to the paragraph one. Now, by default, what it will pick up is character. We also have that information up here. It will also get paragraph, which is what I want. So if I want to change, actually I'm going to go back here. If I want to change the leading, the default setting for this particular one is 14.45 points. I'm going to go ahead and change that right here. Actually, I need to select all of that text. And let's see here. Now, there's other options in this, but just for the purposes of getting through Project 6, I'm going to leave this information right here. And as I've said before, we will look a little deeper into this a little further into the semester.